You ready?
I guess so.
Sounds good. All right, well, thank everyone for coming out. I'm Matthew.
I'm Marty.
I'm Carlos.
And we are the Heroes 3. Thank you so much for checking out our panel here. So today we kind of wanted to do something a little different. Our podcast, if you don't know, we talk about Asian cinema, the best, worst, and everything in between. We focus a lot on Hong Kong action movies, aka Kung Fu movies. But today we want to talk kind of about the Kung Fu movie influence on the video game world, especially fighting games. So that's today with the Bruce Lees of fighting games.
Welcome to the Bruce Lees of fighting games. Yes.
Yeah. So this is almost entirely Carlos's baby. We're going to be supporting, of course, but that's what's happening today. So.
Bruce Lee. We all know him. Bruce Lee, born in 1940, passed away in 1973. His name at birth is Li Junfan. That name has a significance.
Yeah, do folks have an idea where Bruce Lee was born?
Not Ming.
Yeah, feel free to just shout it out.
Bruce Lee is an American citizen.
It's true, yeah. He was born in San Francisco.
Yep.
That's
And
what the Fan in
the Fan
Li
in
Junfan.
Bruce Lee's name is in significance to that. And once he entered the Hong Kong industry of cinema, he was given the name Li Long, which is Li Little Dragon. And little is because he was actually a child star in Asian cinema. But he was born in the Hour of the Dragon and the Year of the Dragon.
Yeah.
So it's meant to be. But here we are. How has Bruce Lee's legacy influenced video games? And we'll hear from him right now. Hopefully.
It is like a finger pointing away to the moon. Don't concentrate on the finger or you will miss all that heavenly glory.
So,
Sage advice for us this afternoon.
Right. So, we're using Bruce Lee as a starting point, and we're talking about video games. Don't just focus on Bruce Lee, or you'll miss out on everything else. And, of course, we love Mario here at VGM Con.
Similar build, similar
to Bruce Lee, yes.
complexion.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to have us take a look at Mario and Journey to the West.
Yeah.
And that takes us way back to the 60s. This man here is Yoichi Kotabe. He was an animator at Toei Animation, and he worked on an adaptation of Journey to the West that was actually brought over to theaters at the time, and they called it Alakazam the Great. Back then, you know how they do things. So, but many decades later, he would work at Nintendo. And as you can see that we've written here, Miyamoto, of course, designing Mario, but refining was Kotabe. And this is an example here from Alakazam the Great. And not really many Mario lookalikes here, but how about the Bull Demon King, who is the primary antagonist of that feature? Yoichi Kotabe working on this. And these image grabs that I have here are from a really great Iwata Asks article, and they talk about this. And you can see this artwork by Kotabe for Super Mario 3. If you look in the background, see Bowser.
Yeah.
That's what's up.
Very bull-like Bowser.
Yeah. So Journey to the West kind of having a direct influence on what we now know as Super Mario franchise. And here we have another example of Nintendo handling Journey to the West. This was a type of adventure game called Yuki. And Soyo Oka, we also love video game music here, of course, composing this piece. And Kotabe also working on it.
Yeah, beautiful artwork. A bit of a sort of quasi-sequel to Shin Onigashima, which is also for the Disk System.
Some Koji Kondo work, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're talking about Journey to the West, but sometimes movies are influenced by games. And
Influence might be too light of a word, but
You're seeing a comparison here.
yeah. It's from Journey to the West, Conquering the Demons, and Asura's Wrath, which came out a year apart from each other, and you'll see.
Asura the traitor. Asura the destructor. You do not belong in this world. Die!
This was shocking because we covered the film, and I don't know if Matthew or I were aware of the cutscene.
I remember hearing people say that there is a correlation, but yeah. You don't have to button mash in the movie, unfortunately.
Well, some of these 4D cinemas are trying to bring this back.
Have any of you guys played Asura's Wrath?
Yeah.
So like, there's some haters because there's a lot of QTEs, but I kind of felt like cinematically it was really good, and obviously we see here that Stephen Chow, who was the brains behind that film, was also inspired by that, which is really fun.
Absolutely.
Some other notable monkeys.
Yeah, once you learn about the Monkey King, you see him everywhere.
Yeah. We got Capcom representing with Son Son. It's kind of an early arcade action game. Chuka Taisen, which is kind of a side-scrolling shooter from Taito. Enslaved, a Western-developed game by Ninja Theory. I like that game a lot. And even Mega Man here. So Mega Man The Wily Wars was a Genesis port of Mega Man games, and there was an additional section of the game where all the bosses were based on Journey to the West.
This guy.
Here.
Yeah, of
Black
course.
Myth Wukong.
Yeah, just from last year.
Big AAA
Black Myth
representation.
Wukong is the one juggling in the.
Yeah.
That is Son Son from Marvel vs. Capcom 2. So, me being a fighting game fan, I was very excited to see that in that madness that was Marvel vs. Capcom 2. And let's pull back to Bruce Lee a little bit. This is Way of the Dragon. This film was directed by Bruce Lee.
And of course, the cinematic debut of Chuck Norris. That's him fighting there, of course.
Yeah, we talked about this on our podcast, but the final sequence between Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris was kind of unprecedented as staging a fight. Long, drawn-out fight. There's a narrative arc to it.
On location.
Yeah. Yep. So, the background here you see is the Coliseum.
Yeah.
Could we get a closer look at the background? Carl? Is there a way we could
I can.
zoom in, maybe?
So this is not an edited clip. This is actually from the movie
Straight
itself.
from the movie. Yeah.
And I made a point to let you know that Bruce Lee directed this. And there are some fairly comedic moments. One of the first things you see is Bruce Lee, as a foreigner, arriving in Italy and not knowing how to order off of a menu, and he ends up ordering like 4 huge bowls of soup, and they bring it all to his table. So
my favorite part is there's one point where he fights a bunch of goons, and one of them, honest to God, looks at him and says, "Mamma mia," and runs away.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. Yep. But here we
Butterfly
are.
Games.
And we're seeing a game here representing that specific scene. You've got the Coliseum.
And you got the kitty.
You've got the little stray cats. Does anyone know what this might be from? It does definitely seem like a fighting game.
What were you supposed to say?
Street Fighter Alpha?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Street Fighter Alpha.
Good call.
Yep. So the first Street Fighter Alpha game. Street Fighter Alpha was in a time when Capcom was being dunked on for not being able to count to 3. Instead of following up Street Fighter 2, they followed it up with Street Fighter Alpha, Street Fighter 0. But we're talking about Bruce Lee. We're talking about Street Fighter.
You gotta talk about Fei Long.
We gotta
Yeah.
talk about Fei Long.
And Carlos especially. Fei Long is very dear.
Yeah. Yeah, Fei Long is my main in Super Turbo. If there was a Super Turbo here, you could play me. There might be, actually. There actually might be, so, yeah. But, yeah, he's very obviously modeled after Bruce Lee. He's a martial artist that is a movie star. And his name, Fei Long, means flying dragon. Long, of course, referring to Bruce Lee. Here's some wonderful images here. And yeah, so in later iterations, you can have alternate costumes. Some of you might recognize these just because of the icon that is Bruce Lee. And I guess starting from left to right, do we have any takers on where these are all tied to?
Could name either the film or the character.
Yep. So yeah, Game of
Game
Death.
of Death on
was
the
this
right.
one.
On the very end, yep, Game of Death.
So this first one is Enter the Dragon. The second one also Enter the Dragon. Kato.
Yeah, Kato from Green Hornet.
And yeah, Game of Death.
Which
More
that's
Bruce
that's a thing that came up whenever we were talking about the Bruce Lee in the original episodes, was that if you watch the Green Hornet, it's insane looking because it's a very 1960s show, like in the same era as like the Adam West Batman and stuff. But then Bruce Lee's in it, so it feels like he stepped out of like a time portal and went into this, and everyone else is doing these really slow, like kind of punches, and he's doing Bruce Lee stuff all over the place.
Yeah, very
It's-
uncanny.
It's really
Great
fun.
way.
And it was very troublesome for the production of the show because stuntmen were not used to dealing with him.
Yeah.
And there are many stories about him.
I hit you and you fall down.
Yeah.
That's my favorite one.
And honestly, a lot of Bruce's frustrations in that experience kind of led him to the Hong Kong film business.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So we're still talking about Street Fighter. Let's get Fei Long out of here for a second. And we see another icon of the game. This is Ryu,
Of course.
the iconic martial artist striving to be better everywhere he travels around the world. And his martial arts style originally was referred to as Shotokan karate, which was the preeminent style of karate at the time when this is coming out. Later on, they reverted from being Shotokan karate to they call it Ansatsuken, which basically means like a killing art. It's not really a specific art. But he's practicing karate, and a lot of people I feel maybe don't know that he's influenced by a real karate practitioner. And you see this official artwork from Capcom vs. SNK 2, very in line with this iconic image of this martial artist, and this is Masatatsu Oyama. And actually of Korean origin, but Japanese citizenship. He's basically the godfather of modern karate and a huge icon in the martial arts world. But we are talking about movies, right? So I will show you. You can see here. These are feats that he did live.
Yeah.
Similar to like Bruce Lee 1-inch punch footage.
He would
stuff
also
like that.
destroy like a sedan, sort of piece by piece.
Yeah, watch out. If you park at one of his demos, you better watch where you're parked. Yeah, so other characters of games that have been influenced were Takuma Sakazaki, Art of Fighting. All the SNK fighting games, like, that could almost be its own panel, too. Like, a lot of these characters, and there's so many, take great influence from different movies or martial arts. One that I'm not as familiar with Pokemon, but as I was putting this together, this Pokemon here called Sock, he's influenced by Masatatsu Oyama, and you can see his face is kind of asymmetrical, and that's actually tied to that. So there's a story where Oyama was out in nature training, and he's corresponding with one of his masters about the temptation to return to society. And this master said, hey, shave one of your eyebrows. If you shave one of your eyebrows, you're not going to be presentable. You can't come back to society. So that design that you see here with Sock is in reference to that. And yeah, we're talking about
Sonichiba.
movies. So this man here with Masatatsu Oyama is a pupil of him, and he's a legend in his own right. This is Sonny
Sonny Chiba.
Chiba, the Street Fighter. And this man, I mean, not only just being an icon in film, but behind the camera, he created the Japan Action Club, which would lead to things in tokusatsu, in Japanese cinema. Power Rangers, I guess, is a general example that people would recognize. And here's just an example of all of the different roles that we've seen him over the years. And that bottom right of him striking.
He's punching a bull. I don't know if you can tell that from there.
That's from a documentary, actually.
Well, here's the thing.
Yeah.
This film is called Karate Bullfighter, and there's a trilogy of films.
What's it about, Carlos?
Yeah, so it's based on the life and times of Masatatsu Oyama. You can find pictures, questionable photos of Mas Oyama wrestling a bull.
And keep your eyes trained on the upper right
Yeah.
of the slide, too, as we move on.
That is a pretty iconic image in itself. There's a reason for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, Revenge of Shinobi. Shinobi, the series itself, another iconic arcade game by Sega. On the horizon, there's a return to Shinobi I'm very excited about. And this is an image from the original arcade game. But you can notice a couple of things here. One, our ninja, he's not wearing a mask. Two, the guy he's attacking looks kind of like a street tough. And that's definitely not like a pagoda or feudal era
Yeah.
Japan in the background. And the reason for that is when this game came out, ninjas were more popular in the US. The 80s was the decade of ninja mania, and that would lead to things like Ninja Turtles, of course. I would say
ninjas.
that in Japan, the ninja boom, cinema-wise, was more like
60s,
like
70s.
60s.
Yeah.
Yeah, black and white films. Some amazing movies that we've talked about
yeah.
many times. But yeah, so here's an example of ninjas in the 80s.
Traitor, listen. You have just 3 days to return the Golden Ninja Warrior to our master. Hear and obey.
Listen to me. Traitor, I believe that you've received the death message from our Ninja Empire. Ninja is supreme and you have double-crossed it. Why did you do that?
The Ninja Empire is evil. I have to reform the Ninja Empire. That is why I took away the Golden Ninja Warrior.
You've got 3 days in which to return the Golden Ninja Warrior, or else you die.
Go to hell.
So as you can see, I've strayed pretty far off from the true ninja.
And there's British R's after Ninja.
Let's say feature some of our classic Hong Kong dubbing crew that we love.
And
Ted
some of our
Thomas.
classic ninja characters. So Shinobi, Revenge of Shinobi was pretty infamous for stealing whole cloth, some pretty obvious licensed characters here.
Who's that big guy in the middle?
Big guy in the middle, yeah, I don't know. But there's a little guy up to the top next to not Rambo that I was happy to see.
Arachnid Boy you've got
there's
there.
Arachnid
and-
Boy.
yeah.
Other side.
Robot tough guy. But anyways, let's play a little game. Who's that Pokemon? All right. That's close.
You're jumping the gun. You're a couple slides ahead.
If I'm being hardcore, I would say you're wrong. But this is Hitmonchan.
Yeah. Big Chan.
But here we are. How about this one?
Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, of course, these characters here inspired a lot of localization involved. But what I can say about this is that the Japanese titles for these Pokemon are based on martial artists. So Sawamura and Ebiwara, known boxer, known kickboxer. And even with there's so many Pokemon, and you can really drill down into where those influences are. One's I don't know. There's like a refrigerator that I don't know how deep that goes. But, but we also have this right here. There's a Pokemon there, but there are two characters that I'm more concerned with that you probably all know. This is Jesse and James. But in Japan, their names are different. This is Musashi and Kojiro. So those names are in reference to legendary samurai. Yeah, this is more than movies. This is history, but we're focusing on the movie side. And Musashi Miyamoto, legend, historical legend, created the path towards martial arts, and just the art of war. Art of war influenced him in his works, and there's some amazing films. The Samurai trilogy from this time, 55, 56. To me, if you haven't seen it, it's probably like the hero's journey, like perfected. It's a beautiful, based on a novel, but based on the history. And we have Musashi and Sasaki Kojiro. They're rivals. This was a true thing, and this is their historical battle. And they've taken those ideas and applied that to fighting games. Because I love fighting games. We're going to talk about Samurai Showdown. And Haomaru and Ukyo, these two characters right here in the first game, based on Musashi Miyamoto and Sasaki Kojiro. Ukyo has a special attack that is named directly after the techniques that Sasaki Kojiro used. And here you see some wonderful artwork. And a lot of other characters are based on historical figures, but also influenced by cinema. And here we see Sonny Chiba once again. This is a film called Makai Tensho.
You'll sometimes see it as Samurai Reincarnation if you're looking for it.
It's pretty much, it's an action kind of fantasy film, but it's reflecting historical fact. Many people know that Japan basically isolated themselves for hundreds of years, and this is representing why. And the reason why is Christianity.
Yeah, Christianity is the villain in the story.
Yeah. So the Shimabara Rebellion, right?
Yeah.
A small group of Christians and converts in Japan started to uprise, and they were soundly defeated.
Yeah. The leader of the rebellion also, he was 17. Yeah, he was executed when he was 17. Yes. And the story of the execution is that they wanted to make such a big show of it that they not only cut all of their heads off, but in some cases they cut their heads off in half so that they could make it look like there was more people that they killed.
They're padding it out.
It's crazy.
Yep. So that's some wild stuff. You can look into that later on if you want.
But the Makai Tensho, that movie's incredibly fun.
Yeah, it's a very exploitative film.
Yes. Yeah. Go into it knowing that, but it's very fun.
A lot of the works from Sonny Chiba will be exploitative, but if that's what you're looking for, it's going to be a real good time.
Yeah.
Pulpy and fun.
Yeah. So here Capcom again, and actually this is representing an animated adaptation of Onimusha. But the main character here is Musashi Miyamoto. And not only that, but the likeness they're using here is Toshiro Mifune, the iconic image of him in cinema. But that's not all. That's actually a tradition in this series. Takeshi Kaneshiro, a very well-known Hong Kong actor of Japanese origin, he is the likeness for Samanosuke in a couple of the games. And then we see here in Onimusha 2, Yusaku Matsuda, who is a well-known actor from around the 80s, 70s, and 80s. And then there's a new Onimusha on the way, and they're using Toshiro Mifune's likeness. The reason that I have these two grouped together is that they both had passed away when they made these games. So these are using likenesses of actors that are no longer with us. Of course, there's some weird things when you talk about that, but I assume there was some agreements handling this. gotta say, hearing this when I was a kid, probably the reason why I'm sitting here right now.
Yeah.
The music in Double Dragon was
electrifying.
formative for me, and I think for a lot of people. But more so than that, we've got another take on Bruce Lee. I think people maybe don't think of that right away, but it was intended, and I can show you why. If you see a screenshot like this, you know where you're heading, right? You're going down that conveyor belt. A Bobo is, yeah, that's right. And yeah, Double Dragon influenced by many things. You see Kenshiro from Fist of the North Star, dead center up top. Mad Max, obviously, and the Warriors.
And of course, Kenshiro himself inspired by Bruce Lee in a lot of ways with the the techniques.
Absolutely.
And it's not in the purview of our podcast, but if you've never seen the Warriors will make so many video games make more sense. It's got mini bosses, it's got themed gangs, it's got going from level to level. It's such a video game movie, despite coming out in the mid '70s.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's tied DNA to this right here. But yeah, the characters' names here are references to Enter the Dragon. You've got Billy and Jimmy Lee. You've got Roper, who was John Saxon, and we've got Williams, Jim Kelly. Abobo is based on Bolo Young, the big heavy in Enter the Dragon. And then even Linda, I would say, is tied to Bruce Lee because Bruce Lee's in real life, his wife is Linda Lee. Chin looks like Jackie to me.
Yeah, a bit.
But I like that, so we're going to roll with that. But here you see Way of the Dragon again, and as the series went on, those influences became more surface level. And one of the developers, his name is Muneki Ebinuma, he's a devout Bruce Lee fan, to the point where Jan Lee in Dead or Alive, his early motion captures were handled by Muneki Ebinuma, and he's the Bruce Lee analog in that game. But he handled the port here for Game Boy Advance, and you see that. Kung Fu time. So this is Kung Fu Master. This was developed by Irem in the arcade, and it's the first beat 'em up. Thomas is our main character, and you're fighting to rescue Sylvia, and those names are actually important. They're not just some random throwaway names. The creator here is Takashi Nishiyama. He's the designer, and he loved action cinema and Hong Kong cinema. Other things that he's worked on, man, this is like Carlos Zaresh like taste right here. Yeah, amazing games here, and all groundbreaking in their own ways.
Absolutely.
And he also is the inventor of the Hadouken. So the Hadouken was inspired by Space Battleship Yamato. In Space Battleship Yamato, the ship itself has a huge cannon called the Hadouho, which is the wave motion cannon. And the Hadouken is the wave motion fist. But here we go. This is the original title for Kung Fu. This is Spartan X. And Jackie plays Thomas. Lola Foreigner plays Sylvia.
Yeah. Any guesses as to the title that this movie is known as internationally and in Hong Kong? Just shout it out.
Mang.
Mang knows it for sure, but yeah, Meals on Meals. Yeah, probably one of the more famous of Jackie's pre come to the United States breakout is Meals on Meals. Excellent movie.
And one of our favorites. Yes,
absolutely.
So yeah, this is an odd one too because this movie takes place in Spain. So it got to the point in the 80s in Hong Kong that Jackie and Samo and Yunbu, these guys were so famous that they could not shoot on location without interruption. So then they decided, hey, let's get out of here.
And also, Jackie and Yunbu especially were extremely popular in Japan as sort of heartthrob figures. They both of them had recording deals too, so they had records out, posters on teenagers' walls, sort of all over Japan. And the title wasn't the only thing that changed in the Japanese release. There's a different underscore to it, and the film is edited a bit differently from other versions. But yeah, Spartan X was so popular that it was a natural fit for this early game adaptation.
There you go.
Any guesses on that composer? That's the finale of Kung Fu on the NES.
Koji Kondo.
That's right.
Yeah. That's the only.
Gee, you can't answer that.
Just always his answer.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
Koji Kondo's adopted child. That's why he is now.
Willie just
allowed
says Koji Kondo and just hosts people are like, yeah.
So yeah, the development of Kung Fu being ported from the arcade to the Famicom was handled by Nintendo directly. And this is something that I actually learned at MagFest recently at a beat 'em ups panel, which was really informative. And they wanted to test scrolling in the Famicom hardware. So they wanted to use a game that they knew had that in the arcade, and this was Kung Fu. And they actually kind of went a little over Irem's head to get this port handled, and it caused a little contention. But yeah, since it was developed directly by Nintendo, Koji Kondo handled some of the music in the game.
Yeah.
I mean,
Mostly
there's not
that.
a
Mostly
lot,
that
yeah.
piece. Yeah.
Yeah, not a lot of music in those games.
So in the concession, Nintendo agreed to kind of help Irem out with their development of games. And any Famicom Irem game that you see has a little LED light, and Nintendo caught the bill for that. They basically were like, all right, sorry guys that we did this, but here you go. But I mean, knowing that they were testing scrolling, so Kung Fu on Famicom came out in June of 1985. Super Mario Brothers on Famicom came out in September of 1985. So knowing that, I mean, there is an argument there that one couldn't have led to...
Basically, that
without
Super
the other.
Mario is Jackie Chan.
I'm not saying anything like that.
And Jackie Chan's nickname in his homeland is Big Nose.
That was true.
Oh, yeah, that
No
is
joke.
actually true.
Yeah.
So now we gotta talk about the big one, the one that everyone's like, yeah, that's definitely a Kung Fu movie influence there. Yeah, Mortal Kombat. This is not related to anything. I love that image so much. That's such a fun.
And the 90s kid fashion, too.
It's so good. The backwards hat. And I love how it completely flies in the face of any like, oh no, these games are meant for they're meant for adults. That's why they're so violent. And then you see that, like, nope, nah.
Yeah, that was great.
He's warning him to, run away.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Come back with a parent or guardian.
So yeah, Mortal Kombat developed by Midway, and the kind of big thing about this game, besides the violence, was that they're using digitized actors here. And that them jumping out of the screen is directly representing that too.
And those are those actually the actors? Those actually
that's
are the
definitely
digitized.
Richard DeVizio,
Yeah.
the guy that's Kano. I'm not sure about the guy back there, but here we go.
So the big one's Bloodsport, which is one of my favorites.
Yeah, Johnny Cage. And the actual history of this too is that they originally wanted Jean-Claude Van Damme to star in this game, and he didn't at the time. And the irony is that he was digitized later on to be in the Street Fighter the movie game, which was the worst of the two decisions to make.
Certainly.
A lot of ideas that you see in Bloodsport would translate to ideas in Mortal Kombat. Bolo Young that we saw in Enter the Dragon, being the big heavy here. In Mortal Kombat, you have Goro, the four-armed heavy, who is in a lot of ways an analog of that. But we also have this here, of course. If you're a fan of this era and a fan of this game, you know that Raiden and things like Shang Tsung are definitely inspired by Big Trouble in Little China, a John Carpenter film.
Yeah.
But
And we have a famous action star from the East, Carter Wong, that makes his Hollywood debut in this film.
One of these three storms that you see here is Carter Wong, who is and just an amazing action performer in Hong Kong and Taiwan. And then, so,
Enter the Dragon. Yeah, it's Enter Dragon. It's about an underground fighting tournament. People from all over the world are coming in. The fights are, it's Bruce Lee. It's the one fight after the next. People are themed, all this stuff.
And these
have
are
the characters.
battles to the death.
Battles to the
A
death.
model in so many ways.
And a lot of movies, including Bloodsport, take from Enter the Dragon. But if you've seen Enter the Dragon before, and if you play Mortal Kombat before you watch Enter the Dragon, you're like, oh, that's that thing. Oh, that's that thing.
Right.
And if you watch the 90s live-action adaptation of the Mortal Kombat, it takes a lot of cues from that.
Yeah.
And,
Very much
in Enter the Dragon, you've got John Saxon as Roper, the kind of smooth white guy coming into things, and you've got Johnny Cage in Mortal Kombat, so there's a lot of that. But for me personally, this is one of the things that I love so much. And Ho Sung Pak, the actor in the game that played Liu Kang. And Liu Kang, the name Liu Kang actually is in reference to Gordon Liu, an amazing Hong Kong actor. And
This is on my shirt. Yeah.
On my shirt right now.
Yeah, from 36 Chamber Shaolin.
But so the other thing about this is that you can see Ho Sung Pak. He is one of the Ninja Turtles in Turtles 1 and 2, I know for sure. Yep. He's Raphael.
He's Raphael. He's there on the right.
Yep. And that GIF that you see here is Ho Sung Pak in Drunken Master 2, which is a 90s sequel to the a legendary film from 1978 starring Jackie Chan. And amazing to see him in this role here. And it's just, I love it. And then, we've got plenty of other Bruce Lee clones. So, do you guys know who this is? Possibly?
Maxie.
Yeah.
Nice.
Maxie from Soul Calibur. So, this is Jackie Bryant from Virtua Fighter. White guy, but actually, his practitioner is Jeet Kune Do, the martial arts style developed by Bruce Lee. And then, of course, martial law in Tekken. I had to grab these older grabs because they're so fun. And then we've also got Kim Dragon in World Heroes. There's plenty more. I mean, we could go on forever, but I just wanted to give you guys a taste of these. And beyond that, also, we've got other analogs. Yeah. So this is Chin Gensai in King of Fighters, and he's modeled after
Simon Yun.
Yeah. Simon Yun, the Drunken Master, the old dirty bastard himself.
Yeah, that's from Wu-Tang Clan. That's his name because he was old dirty, and he started a movie called The Bastard.
Yeah. So we've got Lei Wulong here from Tekken, and this is Jackie Chan in Snake and the Eagle's Shadow. And Lei Wulong entered the series in Tekken 2, but in Tekken 3, one of the main ideas with this character was that he had different animal styles. And you see that represented in... It's funny, as I go through all of these, and like I said, I really do enjoy fighting games. These are like all my mains in different games.
You're a man of impeccable taste.
Yep. So here we also see this is a film from 1976 called Shaolin Wooden Men, and this is Mokujin in the Tekken series. And we have Huang Zhangli. This is the villain in Snake of the Eagle's Shadow. Huang Zhangli, one of the most iconic villains of Hong Kong cinema.
Korean Taekwondo practitioner that was just huge in the late 70s and early 80s in the Hong Kong film business. You could think of him as sort of the ultimate final boss in just about every great independent kung fu film.
Yep.
An amazing kicker.
Yeah.
He's got the most insane kicks.
And he's
you've
still
ever
with
seen.
us and actually has a pretty decent Instagram presence too. He shares a lot. It's really cool.
He be posting. This is Lao Chan in Virtua Fighter, definitely. And we didn't even talk about like Dragon Ball because that's like cartoon stuff. But there's so much.
It's not video games, but of course, obviously, Son Goku is Sun Wukong in Japanese, so the Monkey King there, and Huang Zhangli. There's characters. Tao Pai Pai, it's literally looks exactly the same. And the Kamehameha and Hadouken,
All that
all
stuff.
that's coming from a similar place.
So this is us,
Yeah.
Heroes 3. Thank you so much for being here today. And that's just honestly the tip of the iceberg. There's so much to say, and I was worried about what I didn't even look, but I think
we're doing totally fine on time. Yeah.
We did it great. So I don't even know. Do you guys have questions? For
Yeah. Any questions like that? Yeah.
Or a favorite that we didn't mention?
Yeah, of course.
I got a question.
Yeah.
So you said earlier that this was Carlos's baby regarding the tie and Bruce Lee and all the characters for fighting games. The question I have would be to you two. Do you have fighting game equivalents where you have your preferred characters that are inspired by any sort of martial arts? Or just
That's a great question. I'll have to chew on that, Pernell. That's a good one.
Yeah. I honestly, the thing that gets me isn't as much characters. What gets me is just kind of like vibes is too vague of a word. I guess with a lot of video games, the kind of format of video games is really inspired by a lot of kung fu movies. The whole, like I said, like the going from master to master, being like, oh, you're in this stage, and this stage you fight this guy, and then this guy has this technique, and you have to learn this like all of that is stuff that you see going back even to like the 60s.
With Kung Fu specifically, what we also didn't mention is that even though it's a tie-in to Spartan X and Wheels on Meals, some of the original ideas were based on Game of Death, which was Bruce Lee's film that he never actually completed, but was completed without him. And in that film, you have your main character ascending a pagoda, and on each floor, there's a villain to fight. So in Kung Fu, you're doing that. You're ascending into different floors, and then you're fighting different characters. Honestly, in a way, you could see that as a structure leading to any video game. And
I think that's so true. And we maybe didn't mention it, but part of the legend of Bruce Lee is that his film career is extremely short. We just have a few of these movies, but I would say even from that tiny selection, like Matthew's saying, they're kind of structural templates for a lot of games. Like as we've said, Enter the Dragon really captures a lot of it. And Game of Death, essentially this idea that you're climbing up literal levels, it's possible that might even be where we get some of the terminology. We don't even question that we call it levels. It's like that actually refers to the floor of a building, really. And it's kind of endless, those connections. And I feel like we keep surprising ourselves as we cover more and more movies. It's like, oh, so much of what we love in games like really started here.
Gene in the back.
So I know there's always more examples and there's a limit of time, but I'm curious on your thoughts about karateka or karateka, because it encapsulates all of that. So it's basically those films in game form.
I agree. And I've been meaning to dig into that latest release. That's honestly like a documentary.
I did play through that.
Oh, very cool.
So and that's neat because he
Jordan Mechner.
Thank you. Jordan Mechner. It's funny, he doesn't really talk a whole lot about the movie influence on the game. Obviously, there is some, but a lot of it was like him taking karate classes and his I think it was his sister or something. It was like one of their teachers who was doing the videos that they got rotoscoped into karateka.
Yeah, and thinking about that too, like we mentioned Mortal Kombat, that they're taking an actor's performance and translating that into a game. And when it comes to like a lot of different things, like in Hong Kong cinema, and I mean, I don't want to get it too far into the weeds, but we're thinking about Hong Kong action where in a fight scene in a Hong Kong action film, you're going to see a static shot with two performers that are executing at a high level for a long time. And then in Western action movies, it's totally different style. And it's something that a lot of people strive for now. But Way of the Dragon, when Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris are fighting each other, it looks like a fighting game. You're seeing two guys and a wide shot, and they're facing each other directly. So it's really kind of cool to think about where those influences come and where they lead to. You had a question?
Yeah, I'm kind of looking from the outside in on this topic, which by the way is very informative. Thank you. The one thing I have seen that ticks all these boxes is the Indonesian movie The Raid. How does that compare to more Chinese, Hong Kong, Japanese style?
Yeah, you could think of it as almost kind of the grandchild or something of of a lot of that cinema. It owes a lot to some of the visual language of Hong Kong choreography and the traditions of camera work around those things. But they're very much trying to create an maybe even more kinetic approach to the camera work and the speed and impact of the action, and then also very famously just a different kind of approach to on-screen violence. And I do think we see kind of the influence of that on games since those films have come out. I'm curious what you guys think.
I mean, to me, I think, at the same time as it being very influenced by all that stuff, I think in itself it is an influence to a lot of modern action and a lot of modern Western action.
Yeah,
and I think that's a really fun conversation too. The conversation back and forth between Western action and Hong Kong and Asian action is just endless.
And I think you can include Tony Jaa's early films in that same conversation with The Raid.
Absolutely.
And we talk on the show all the time about how a lot of modern films in the U.S. have a lot of action. The action just doesn't do it quite as much. And a lot of that is the camera, because like you'll see behind the scenes of fights in like Marvel movies, and behind the scenes they look great. Like there's really great choreography happening. People are moving really fast, and in the camera that we actually see in the movie is just fast and muddy and shaky cam and all that stuff. And part of why stuff like The Raid kind of comes out is because it's clear. You see this is what's happening, and if people get really dirty, it matches like the vibe of the film, matches the story that they're trying to tell.
Getting to be a huge fan of Hong Kong cinema poisons your brain
to
seeing action, because when you see it not done right, it can can take you out of it completely.
But, I mean,
but
luckily
that's
we
not
have
like
some,
a hipster thing, though. It's just there's different styles that work for different,
Well, and it comes out of respect and awe too. If you may not know, the Wachowskis, when developing The Matrix, reached out to the legend, the man himself, Yuen Woo-ping, and his team.
Thank you for mentioning Yuen Woo-ping. If we went through this without mentioning Yuen Woo-ping,
because we're talking about Snake and Eagle Shadow and everything. But and his father is Simon Yuen, the old dirty bastard.
Yeah, the drunken master.
And Yuen Woo-ping luckily is still with us. But essentially, how they prepared for The Matrix is Yuen Woo-ping and his team was training all of the actors for weeks, months, and along with that, they're designing all of the shots. So essentially, Yuen Woo-ping directs those sequences of The Matrix, and Ang Lee took a similar approach with Crouching Tiger, where for those fights, Yuen Woo-ping is actually composing as a director visually those scenes. Because like we're saying, that kick is only beautiful from the right perspective in a lot of ways. And we absolutely see that influence on video games, whether we're talking about fighting games with a locked camera or even more contemporary, something like Black Myth Wukong, you still get an appreciation of perspective and angle. You can tell that the animations are built in a way to really flatter wherever your camera might happen to be.
Chris.
Copyright. So, like, Revenge of Shinobi had to get reissued with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Right.
And, like, the second characters had to change a little bit over time. Like, what did you guys find in your research is, like, okay, and what can you get sued for?
Well, here's the fun thing, and this goes towards Hong Kong cinema in general, is they just do it.
Yeah.
They just do it. So
just get that film print into the theater.
There's a couple of films that I think of right away that are kind of infamous that we like to joke about. There's a film called Future Cops that we did not share clips from. But if you see a clip from Future Cops, you'll think that you're watching a Street Fighter live action film to the craziest degree. A lot of wire work, a lot of kind of gags and stuff like that.
There's even a Blanca.
Yeah, there's absolutely a Blanca. There's a Goku in it for no reason. But so what happens with this film is this director, and it's hard to find a real history on things, but the director was basically looking to make a licensed Street Fighter film, and he did not get that license.
And he made it anyway.
And he made it. Let's go to the back right here.
So when Bruce Lee died, a lot of actors did Bruce Lee movies that were kind
Yeah.
of of that. Do you have any recommendations of those films from the late 70s?
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're often referred to as the clones of Bruce Lee.
Yes,
Yeah, there's
Bruce
an
Lee
amazing
clones.
box set and documentary that's out.
Yeah.
Yep. There's a really great documentary that's tied to a really great Blu-ray box set called The Clones of Bruce Lee, and it's got pretty much everything you'd want. I think us three personally, we would
Game of Death.
There's a film called Game of Death 2. And this film has like the Yun clan involved, which is like Yun Woo Ping and the action that we really
Directed
love.
by Ng Si-yun.
Yeah, and all of these films that you're speaking on brazenly use other footage or really bad
or ghoulishly use footage from Bruce Lee's funeral.
Yes,
a lot of
it's
movies
astounding.
do
Like
that.
news camera footage.
There is
from
literally
his
a shot in Game of Death that is an actor sitting in front of a mirror, and on the mirror is a picture of Bruce Lee taped in position, so it looks like it's his face.
I forgot about that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
Game of Death itself, while considered the final Bruce Lee film, it's best to prepare yourself before watching it because it's arguably very exploitative and not very seamless as far as what was done after.
It's a couple
his
of
death.
cool fight scenes, and it's not a very good movie. Game of Death 2 is a genuinely great movie.
And
And you actually have Yun Bu doubling for Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
and
quite a
Huang
lot of
Zhang
it.
Li, who we mentioned, is the villain in that, and it just goes off the
It
rails.
goes, it's bananas.
But,
I really like that movie. I was not expecting to enjoy that movie as
Yeah.
much as I did.
I also feel like, in regards to our taste, and I think in regards to Hong Kong cinema, I think a lot of people will look at Bruceploitation, is what they call it, and they'll look down on it because, I mean, and for a lot of reasons it should be looked down because it's like, I can't
And the
believe
names
you
too.
would
You
do
have Bruce
this.
Lee or Bruce Lee
Yep.
spelled slightly different.
But at the same time, there's a lot of craft and a lot of love done in small budgets in these films. And I'd be happy to talk to you about it in a bit. But I think generally, if you can find a Bruceploitation film that has like a Yun clan involved, Dynamo is a film that I think is a really good one. I'd be happy. And I mean, there is a film called The Clones of Bruce Lee where there's literally it's like the all-star movie of Bruceploitation where they have all the major clone actors in almost a
Project together.
science fiction premise where a scientist makes clones. The scientist himself is a bit actor from Way of the Dragon, and it's just crazy. But thanks for bringing that up. Gene again.
Just real quick, to bring it back to games, what are your thoughts on the new game Shifu or Sifu?
I actually love it, and
Shifu's really cool, yeah.
I haven't seen people talk about the appreciation of Hong Kong cinema in that game yet, and I'm surprised at that. The entire opening sequence of Shifu is the Golden Harvest kind of, or Shaw Brothers, red background, martial artists performing.
Yep.
That's exactly what they're going for, and I haven't heard anybody mention that.
Yeah.
The plot of the game also is a plot of revenge, which is the template for any 70s and 80s Golden Harvest.
And it really attempts to capture choreography beat by beat in a way that even fighting games don't necessarily require.
As a fan of action games, I also really enjoy the gameplay in that. It for me personally, I love God Hand, the Capcom action game, and this is the closest that I've gotten to feeling like I'm playing a sequel to God Hand. Thanks for that too.
Yeah.
Brian.
Hey, so I really like the whole idea of like tracing the lineage of things, and I really like how you all did that here. Because I made that same connection when I was looking up like game history, that like, side-scrolling came from Kung Fu, so like beat 'em ups led to Mario, which went on. And so I'm curious, moving in the other direction, do you all know what the inspirations for Kung Fu cinema were? Were there like stage plays that did this kind of stuff?
Yeah, Peking opera. That's the
Yeah.
big
Yes,
one.
Yeah.
There's the Peking opera.
And also Hollywood.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
there's this kind of like crosstalk conversation back and forth with Eastern and Western cinema. But really there's a deep and rich tradition of, let's say, like Hong Kong movies that go back to this black and white era, of which we don't have a lot of surviving material. So probably the most famous folk hero character in Hong Kong cinema is Wong Fei Hong.
Thanks,
There you
And
go.
that's
We're hitting
who-
all the heroes.
That's who Jackie is depicting in Drunken Master and in
Yeah.
the Jet Li Once Upon a Time in China films. That if you've seen Iron Monkey, that's about Wong Fei Hong's father. And there's a very famous actor in Hong Kong called Kwon Ta-king who portrayed this character in the black and white era and holds the Guinness record for the most amount of films portraying
hundreds of films
a character.
Yeah,
so
literally, that's not a joke.
They were really cultivating a tradition, kind of privately, which is reminiscent of a lot of Japanese art too, sort of privately for decades. And so by the time most of the rest of the world becomes aware of Hong Kong cinema in the late 60s and in the 70s, they had cut their teeth in a lot of these films. And then, as Matthew said, really have this rich tradition of Peking opera going all the way back.
And a lot of the big actors in those 70s movies grew up in the Peking Opera School, but the Peking Opera School or the Peking Opera kind of was dying because of cinemas and stuff. So all these highly trained, incredible athletes and martial artists
And everything
didn't have anywhere
everything
to
we're saying
go.
about the 2D framing, even when it gets into Street Fighter, and
Very staged.
that very much has to do with the stage in Peking opera and
Jackie
facing the
Chan,
audience.
Jackie Chan, Yun Bu, and Sammo were all Peking opera students. And Sammo was the older of them, and he was kind of seeing the roadmap. He could tell that, hey, this isn't going to last much longer, so he started to work in film. And then from that, he brought them all over. I should also say,
And
too...
Sammo worked on the Bruce films, we should say.
Yeah, before we go,
So we can finish this up.
I mentioned that Bruce Lee was born in San Francisco, and the reason that he was born in San Francisco is that his father was a well-known opera performer, and he traveled the world because of it. And his family actually was afforded some luxury because of that, and that's why Bruce Lee was born in San Francisco.
Cool.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You can check us out on the internet somewhere.
That's our link tree right there that gets you to all the social medias and stuff.
Appreciate you stopping in.
Yes, thank you. Good job, y'all.
That was awesome. I'll let you do all this stuff. Yeah. Matthew.
I want to video you.